Welcome to yet another instructional video. Today we're going to talk about how we can make our project from the CNC router yesterday look like this nice finished project. So just to recap, yesterday we pulled ours off the CNC router and it looked like this. It's got a lot of machining and milling marks. It's got rough spots. So we need to clean that up. All right, we're going to start off by using this small handheld router. It's got a flush trimming bit in it. You can see at the end. This bushing is going to ride around the outside of our project, and that red bit that's sticking out, that will trim off any excess material. So tabs, or if your project looks like mine, maybe it was slightly thicker than 3/4 of an inch, it'll get rid of that extra wood too. So I'm going to put my project face down on the table. And when I work with this handheld router, I'm going to go around my project in a counterclockwise direction. Big circle like that. So I'm going to put the big base on here. I've got the router up to its top RPM. I'll turn it on. I'm going to move my hand. And there we've got those tabs off, and we've got a nice clean break on the back edge here, so no splinters on our project. And these pieces here are scrap, so they can get put into one of the scrap bins when you're finished. Now the next thing I want to do is square up the corners on this pocket so that I can fit a deck of cards in there, nice and easy. To do that, I'm going to use a sharp chisel. Here's my sharp chisel, and I'll use a mallet to tap on that chisel. And now sharp chisels aren't that common in the wood shop because we've got 30+ kids in here every hour. If they sit out, they don't stay sharp, so ask your instructor and they'll get you out a sharp chisel. So when I make my cuts here, again, I want to pay attention to the grain. What I'm going to try and do is cut across the grain first. So I'm just going to make a tiny cut across the grain, and then I'll take my chisel and I'll come cut along the grain. I'm going to turn off the camera so I can shut that noisy heater off. I'll reposition it so you can get a better view of this in the next step. Alright, so here again is my project. I'm going to make a cut across the grain and then I'll do my long cut going down. If I do this in the other direction, my chisel will act like a wedge and it could split this apart. So I'm going to take the flat back edge, I'll put that against the flat inside of my project and just kind of pivot my chisel around, right, so that I can stand it up straight. Now when I use the chisel, I always want to have both hands on the top. If they're up here, they're not going to get cut. Now I'm going to keep one hand on, and then I'll take my mallet and I'm just going to give it a little tap down. Such a tap I knocked my camera over. And now I'll take and I'll rotate my chisel 90 degrees and I'll make that long cut with the grain. So again, I'm going to rotate it in. I can give it a little tap by hand to get it started. And then I'll cut with my mallet to come down and clean up that corner. Okay, I may have to switch back and forth a couple times while I do this. All right. And then to finish this off, I'm going to position it so I'm going away from me. I can just come in and clean up the bottom edge with my chisel. All right, there's one corner done. I've got 3 more to go. I sense time warp video coming on. Well, we're at the router table now, and it has the same quarter round bit in it that we used for our previous project when we rounded all the edges over on this message board. I want to round the tops and bottoms on this cribbage board. That's going to do 2 things. It'll dress it up, give it a little more finished appearance. It'll also get rid of a lot of these fuzzy wood fibers that was left from the CNC router. So when we're doing round stuff on the router table, there's 2 things we should consider. First is which direction to move it. We're going to move right to left on here, just like before. but because this project is round, it's going to look like we're spinning it in a counterclockwise circle. So that's one very important consideration. The other thing is when we start off on the router, we always want to try and start off on the edge grain for these round shapes, not the end grain. So you can see here's the end grain where those lines are coming up to the end. If we start off here, it might work, or it might kick back and take a big gouge out of your project. So what I like to do is look at my project, kind of identify where the edge grain is. It looks like it would have been right here on my project. And I'll just draw a little arrow on there to give myself a visual reminder when I get started. So I'm going to do that on both the front and the back side of my project. There's where I want to start when I'm doing this. So we'll let the router get up to full speed. I'll do a pass around, check my work. If it looks like I've missed any spots, I can reroute it, and then I'll flip it over and do the same on the top. That's nice and smooth. Now I'll flip it over. Now with both of my edges routed, my last step is to sand this with the progression of sandpaper to a finish of 220, and then we'll be on to the next step.